The excommunication of the Society of St. Pius X has been a hot topic for hours. But there's one crucial detail that almost everyone is ignoring, and it's precisely what could change the way this matter is understood. The starting point is this. On the one hand, a document from Rome that, when read carefully, affects very few people. On the other, bishops who, in practice, are applying it to everyone. Who is right? Let's examine it together. Here's what we know for sure. On July 2nd, the Doctrine of the Faith published two distinct documents, and the distinction is crucial: a decree and an explanatory note. They are not the same thing, and they do not carry the same weight. The decree excommunicates the 6 bishops involved in the consecrations of Econ. This much is certain, complete, and indisputable. 6 people struck by a declaratory sentence. The explanatory note, however, goes further. It says that the priests of the fraternity are in schism, and that the laity, who formally adhere to it, are excommunicated. First question, and here begins our interrogation. Can an explanatory note alone excommunicate someone? The answer, according to canonists, is no. A note of that kind is not a law, not a penal precept, not a declaratory decree, nor a sentence. This is a doctrinal explanation. It serves to clarify, not to punish. Strictly speaking, only the decree on the 6 bishops has penal force. Here, we need to fully understand what is happening. I'm not saying that the priests of the society are at peace or that nothing concerns them. The note clarifies their position. They are considered to be in schism. But between declaring a state and formally excommunicating with a legal act, there is a very important technical difference. Second question, the most important for you who perhaps sometimes go to that Mass. Does excommunication for schism automatically apply to anyone who sets foot in a fraternity chapel? Here too, the answer is no. And it's not just me saying it, the very criteria Rome invokes say so. Because latae sententiae excommunication, the automatic one, isn't applied en masse. It requires an assessment of individual guilt. What we see is only the surface. Let's delve deeper, because this is where everything comes into play. What exactly does it mean to formally adhere to the schism? Rome itself explains, and 2 elements are needed together. The first is internal, consciously and freely sharing the essence of the schism. That is, placing the path of the fraternity above obedience to the Pope. It is an act of conscience. The second is external, and it is the most obvious sign. Exclusive participation in the fraternity's activities, no longer participating in the life of the Catholic Church. Not an occasional visit, an exclusive and stable choice. A canonist, Father Jan Donalik, Chancellor of the Archdiocese of Krakow, said it clearly. Occasional lay participation does not automatically mean entering into schism. The conscious and permanent choice to participate only in the liturgies of the fraternity does. The crux of the matter is this. Anyone who occasionally attends the Old Mass at a fraternity chapel out of devotion without denying the Pope or abandoning the Church is not a schismatic and is not excommunicated. This is dictated by Rome's criteria, not by traditionalists. And now comes the paradox, the real one, the one you started this video for. Because while canonists are explaining these fine distinctions, some bishops on the ground are adopting much more drastic language. The first was Bishop Lavallee of Ogdensburg, New York. In a July 1st letter, Lavallee declared the society in formal schism and ordered the faithful of his diocese not to participate in the society's liturgies, not to receive its sacraments, and even to avoid its schools. And he adds a weighty sentence. Continued participation in the fraternity's activities would constitute formal adherence to the schism. Third question, the most uncomfortable. Is the bishop right, or is he forcing his hand? The honest answer is, it depends on what you mean. If continued participation means what Rome means, that is, exclusive and stable adherence, with a heart that renounces obedience to the Pope, then the bishop is right. That is formal adherence. But if the message reaching the ears of the simple faithful is, if you set foot there once, you're a schismatic, then something is being said that the Rome Note itself doesn't affirm. And this is the heart of the problem. The real question, the one no one dares to formulate, is a decree that canonically affects 6 people being used to send a message that, in fact, frightens 600,000. Is this a canonical error or a deliberate pastoral choice? Please note, I am not accusing the bishops of bad faith. A pastor has the duty to warn his flock and point the way to safety. Lavalle's concern is legitimate. He fears that his faithful will gradually slide into a full-blown rupture. But precisely for the sake of truth and of the faithful, distinctions must be respected. Because frightening a soul by telling it it's excommunicated when it isn't is not charity. It's an unjust burden placed on a conscience. And there's a very real practical risk. If a believer mistakenly believes they're no longer part of the church, they might stop seeking the sacraments altogether, or distance themselves from God out of desperation. This is why precision here isn't about fussiness. It's about caring for souls. Moreover, this distinction is not a modern invention. 30 years ago, Rome clarified that simply attending the fraternity's masses did not entail excommunication. The current decree hasn't erased that principle. It has simply placed it within a more stringent framework. But the principle remains, and it still applies to the least of the faithful. And here, I'd like to say a word to those listening with anxious hearts. If you love the ancient Mass, you're not a rebel. You're not a problem for the Church. You are a child who asks for the same bread as always. The confusion of these days must not rob you of your peace. Stay informed, remain faithful to the Pope, and continue to seek God where you can surely find Him. Fourth and final question. So, what should I actually do? Here's the practical, down-to-earth answer. 1. The Fraternity Mass is valid. Attending it every now and then, out of devotion to the ancient rite, doesn't make you schismatic. 2. Don't make the society your only church. Denying the Pope, that would be mere formal adherence. 3. For confession and marriage, as we've already explained, seek a priest in full communion for the certainty of the sacrament. And above all, seek out the ancient Mass even where it is fully in compliance with Rome, because tradition is not a club and it doesn't belong to a single acronym. It is the treasure of the entire Church. This isn't a cop-out to justify rebellion, it's simply justice. The Church punishes those who choose to break away, not those who seek the beauty of the ancient rite with a faithful heart. What do you think? If you liked the video, comment Amen. God bless you.